Hey, what's up guys, Jordan Anderson here, and on this episode we're going to talk about the book that I just read, The One Thing. And I kind of want to talk about one phenomenon with having a book like this that's become so popular. It almost has the same effect that you hear with the book like Atomic Habits. All the lessons from the book, all the kind of takeaways from the book kind of spill out or kind of diffuse into society where it almost becomes like conversational talking points. These are things like the 80-20 rule that you've all heard of, classic notion of it takes 66 days to form a habit, as well as the idea of multitasking and context switching and how that kind of cuts down your productivity. All of that is covered in this book, and so there was a lot of this book that I read that you just kind of like almost want to skip over because you've heard these concepts so many times, you've heard these ideas so many times from so many different voices that you end up skipping a little bit of this book. So rather than doing like a full comprehensive review of this book, I really want to focus on the three major lessons that this book has to offer that has had the most impact on my life and that I think will have the most impact on your life. So the three main lessons I want to focus on are the goal setting and the kind of domino effect that comes with that, the time blocking aspects, and then finally the third and major lesson is the one thing. That's the name of the book. We'll talk about that lesson towards the end of the video, so stick around. Let's get into the first lesson. The first lesson is creating this domino effect. With goal setting, the book wants you to start on a very macro level, and I've talked about this a little bit when I going over some Notion ideas that I got from August Bradley. The idea that you start from a very wide, large perspective, looking at the macro things of the someday goal. This is the goal that I want to do someday. There's no, I don't want to do this in a year or 5 years, but it's just this very kind of large, it's more of a dream than a goal. And then once you take that kind of large concept idea, that macro idea, you then bring it down one level to say a 5-year plan and then a 1-year plan. What I really like about this concept is when we think of our large goals, when we think of our 5-year plan, when we think of our big dreams or I'd love to achieve this someday, it becomes very paralyzing because you go, well, what can I do right now to achieve that goal? I want to make $1 million. Okay, where do I start? Like, it's day one. How do I make $1 million? And it just seems like this huge, crazy goal. Rather than looking at the kind of broad picture, you're able to kind of focus on this one aspect, this one little thing. What can I do today? What can I do right now that's going to push the ball forward? And you focus on that, and then after a while, after several months, after several weeks, taking those consecutive tasks, I've just been doing one thing every single day. I'm focused on one major thing every single day, and after a while, it builds up, it piles up, until you've seen like huge shifts in the results that you're looking for. Okay, let's move on to the second lesson, time blocking. Time blocking, this was one of my favorite concepts from the book because of how radically it could change your life. Or how much like of a wrench it could just throw into your current calendar. Time blocking is taking a certain chunk of your day, and he says in the book, 4 hours a day. So just like pause right there. If you're working an 8-hour day, to focus on one single thing for 4 hours a day. So you choose one thing to do each day. And like, here's the kicker. It's not just like I'm going to do one task and then like get to my other task. It's a 4-hour chunk of time. Basically half your day is going to be spent and dedicated to just one thing. You do this every single day of the week. You take Saturday off, you take frequent vacations, and then another aspect that I started to implement that I didn't do before, but after reading, like, why don't I do this? It's fairly simple to do, and that's spending at least an hour each Sunday just planning your week. Because the problem I have is running into Monday, you wake up Monday morning, and then you're just kind of scrambling to kind of like come up with a plan for the week, like what do I do between Monday and Friday, and then like you spend half your day Monday just planning what you're going to do. Instead, you could have been focusing on the task that you wanted to do instead of wasting that entire Monday. If you spend 1 hour on Sunday, you can go into Monday having a little bit more clarity, not being so frantic, and you can actually, make Monday fairly effective as opposed to just wasting your time planning or scrambling or, browsing emails or browsing YouTube. You can have that Monday back, and that makes your week that much more effective. It's taking that 80-20 principle and just kind of putting it on steroids. The struggle I have is thinking an effective day or a successful day is a day where I have this big to-do list. I have 10 items and I was able to knock out all 10 items. And if my to-do list only has one item on there, I feel kind of inadequate. I feel like this day wasn't exactly effective. Even though I got this task done, it just feels like, well, I feel like I could have put a little bit more into the day. So taking that inadequacy, taking that feeling of like I'm not being effective, and flipping it on its head and saying, okay, I am going to focus on just one major pillar task. Let's get on to the final lesson, the third lesson, of course. This is the one thing. So the focusing question from the book is this: what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And then you ask that question, how do you apply that to your business? You say, what's the one thing I can do in my relationships? What's the one thing I can do for my physical health? What's the one thing I can do in my business that's going to make everything unnecessary, obsolete, or easier? But the idea distilled down is to have just this one single idea in your head, have this one thing, be very focused, single-minded on this one task, this one project, this one objective that I want to have in my life, rather than trying to believe or lie to myself that I can achieve all these things or have 5 different objectives or 5 different goals. If I just stopped, assessed everything and said, okay, I just want to focus on one thing, this one goal, and I'm going to do it every single day or 5 days a week, or spend half my day focusing on this one thing, then that's going to have a much larger result. That's going to have a much more impactful result, as opposed to trying to say like, okay, I have 5 ideas, I have 5 goals, I have all these different lists going all at the same time. Rather slow down, focus, and have and really just focus on the one thing. I feel like, how many times are we going to say the one thing in this video? So let's wrap up. So how am I going to apply this one thing? How am I going to take away this book? I've talked about this in the past, that you should choose 2 to 3 social media channels. For me, it was doing daily emails, doing podcasts. I dabbled in a little bit of TikTok, and that felt like I was overcompensating in one, or like if I leaned too hard into daily emails, I would overcompensate by saying, okay, now I'm going to do 30 days straight of TikTok, and then I would feel like I was abusing the YouTube channel and say, okay, now I need to go all in on YouTube. And then I just kind of had these spasms where I was like jumping from one to the next, always trying to push all my weight into one, and then having this kind of very spread thin, not very effective, not seeing any results in any of them, and being frustrated and kind of mad at myself, not like, okay, why am I wasting my time on these channels if I'm not seeing any of the results? So instead, my one thing now is just YouTube. What can I do? How can I focus all my attention? And how can I develop a good habit around it? By scripting videos, by working more on the thumbnails, by working more on video concepts, and even making these videos look better for the viewer and sound better for the viewers. Ask yourself this: what is the one thing you can do in your life? What's the one thing you can do in your business? What's the one thing you can do in your personal relationships that can make everything easier or unnecessary? If you want to read the book, put it down below in the description. You can find it on Amazon. So thanks for watching, guys. My name is Jordan Anderson, and I will see you on the next one.